Welcome to Link Up Top Tip video series, Adapt, Survive, Thrive. In this session, our volunteer Harriet from TopHat Coaching will look at what we're thinking of when we mean a resilient organisation. So Harriet, if you'd just like to introduce yourself.
Oh, thanks. Hi, I'm Harriet Dodd. I'm the director of TopHat Coaching. Before I came to coaching, I had a career in international development. So I've worked in many places all over the world, in some of the trickier places, and I bring that into my coaching for experience, but not to offer advice, I would stress before we start discussing. So in this session, I hope we can have an exchange where I pose some questions perhaps to your listeners.
For you, what would you say makes organisational resilience important right now?
Well, I think the reason it's important, resilience is all about maintaining our flexibility to be able to cope with changing circumstances. And if we're not in changing circumstances right now, I don't know what we're in. Deep uncertainty, and there isn't a person on the planet that hasn't been affected, and there isn't a way of working that hasn't been affected. So we're in uncharted territory. I think Groundhog Day would probably describe it very well. And I think the other thing is, because everybody's been affected, there is an onus on all leaders of organizations to consider now how they are responding, but also to consider the question, and this is what I also ask all of my clients, when we move into the next phase, I actually at the beginning used to say when we're out of this, but I don't think out of this is quite what's going to happen. But when we're through, we're going to be looking back and saying, what did we do? And how did we help? And what has this meant for me as a leader and for my organization? So organizational resilience is an extremely important thing, both for considering how well we manage our situation now, but also how we cope and how we will both look back and learn and change for the future.
You found a very, very interesting and really useful framework for looking at this. So do you mind just kind of telling us a little bit more about the organisational resilience framework that you found?
Yeah, I mean, the framework, there are many frameworks for this, and I think that they all basically hang together. This one is from the International Consortium of Organisational Resilience. So I guess it's carrying on the tin what it says it does. And I think it provides a very good sort of it breaks down the organizational resilience into three blocks. The first is leadership and strategy, which refers to the direction an organization is intentionally taking, not being buffeted, but the decisions and control it is able to take. And the second one is looking at organizational behaviors and cultures. So one is the outward looking directional view of an organization. The second is organizational behaviors and culture, and that's a block where you consider how the organization works as a system of people and how it manages its staff, and importantly for small charities, its volunteers. And the third block will be no surprise to everybody, which is how you look at risk and how you manage, not just fall over because of risk, but actually how you anticipate risk and respond to it. And these three blocks, so it's like chunking down how an organization works. And importantly, in this framework, at the heart of it are behaviors. And there's been, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have been aware there's masses online at the minute about how we should be behaving. And there are 16 behaviors in the center of this framework, and I would urge people to look at it in more detail. For me, there's a saying that if you're not flexible, you break. And my daily yoga practice is showing me this on a regular basis. However, I think that there are some really important behaviors that organizations that are going to be resilient in this current climate of uncertainty is creativity, inclusion, and that's inclusion of all voices, whether volunteers or staff, commitment to your purpose and the direction of travel, collaboration, both internally and externally with other organizations. And I suppose I would add actually another behavior here, which is kindness.
So do you have anything for organizations to consider as they finish this video? whether that's staff members, volunteers, or leaders?
Yeah, okay. Let me think. I don't like giving top tips. As I said, I'm a coach, so I tend to ask questions. Carries less responsibility in my experience. But okay, let me ask some questions. I would say of all leaders of all organizations, but even staff who may be listening to these videos, sit back and first of all, in relation to the block on leadership and strategy, consider the organization you work for and ask yourself, what is its purpose? What is it for? You may be facing financial stress. You may have had to furlough a number of staff. You may be considering how your clients are living in a completely new, or your customers are living in a new circumstance. Go back to the purpose and ask, what is it? Going back to this thing about being kind, my top tip is, and I think this is being, in the internet is reverberating with this, is be kind, check in to volunteers, furloughed staff and existing staff. Check in, not check up. And I would say keep that regular. It doesn't mean that it has to undermine what you're trying to do as an organization, but it has to run parallel and it has to be kind. And in relation to risk management, many organizations will be going through deep change. The future will be uncertain. Finances may lead to the fact that furloughed staff are not able to return to work, and they will be worried about that. Hence the check-in rather than just check up. But risk management, in my experience, in supporting big organizational change, is open it up for debate. Let everybody be involved. And there are platforms that you can use, like Mural, where people can anonymously put what they're worried about, what they see as risks. And at different levels of organizations, different people will have a different view of what they see the risks of being. And they may have read more stuff on the internet. They may have come up with ideas. They may have talked to family. They may have things. Bring those risks to the table, because the more you have out there, the better you can manage them.